Hormones are your body's chemical messengers, and they travel through your bloodstream to tell your tissues and organs what to do. Just think of it like text messages your body sends. Now, when you have hormonal imbalances, it's either because you have too much or too little of a specific hormone. And when this happens, your body starts reacting immediately. Think of it like a cake recipe, right? If you add too much salt to it or forget to add yeast, the entire results of the cake changes. Truth of the matter is, there is no way your hormones can actually be balanced or throughout your cycle. No, never. This is because different things happen during different times of your cycle. Now, ladies, I know in a group of 10 women, maybe only 2 fully understand what a menstrual cycle is or what exactly happens throughout the cycle. So let's briefly look at what actually happens at each stage of the menstrual cycle. Well, the period is actually the first stage of your cycle. Yes, you heard right. The period is the first stage or first phase of your cycle. Now, during your period, 2 hormones, that is the estrogen and progesterone, usually drop. Now, because these hormones are low, you might feel tired, emotional, quiet, or moody. You know all those signs that come with period, right? Now, on to the second period. On to the second phase of your period. The second phase of your period is called the follicular phase. Here, your brain signals your ovaries to prepare another egg. Remember, the initial one has been shed off during periods. So, it releases FSH, which helps immature eggs in your ovaries to start developing. Now, as this is happening in the background, estrogen slowly starts rising. And the rise in estrogen usually makes one feel lighter, more social, focused, and maybe hopeful. It's like you start feeling like yourself again. Remember, during the first phase, during the period, you don't always feel like yourself, right? The third stage of your cycle is the ovulation stage. Here, estrogen hormones keep rising and they reach its peak. This peak always tells the brain to release SH, the hormone that causes the ovary to release a mature egg. Now, around this time, you may feel more confident, more energetic, mentally sharp, and more outgoing. And the sex drive may also skyrocket around this time. I know you know what I'm talking about. You are also deemed most fertile around this time. The last stage of your menstrual cycle is the luteal phase. Here, estrogen hormones usually drop and the progesterone hormone takes over. Progesterone is the nurturer, but it's also a bit of a sedative because it always slows you down. And if you are a woman who experiences PMS symptoms, because I know some women don't even know what PMS symptoms are. PMS symptoms, this is when they show up. If you're a woman who experiences PMS symptoms, this is when they actually show up. Some of the PMS symptoms include bloating, mood swings, and sensitive breasts, among other symptoms. Now, the next stage is your period again, and that's actually what happens every month if pregnancy does not occur. Now, what do I mean in simple terms? In simple terms, what I mean is low hormone equals period. Rising estrogen equals energy returns. When estrogen peaks, ovulation happens. Now, when progesterone rises, you become more calm and slower. And when hormones drop, PMS plus period starts again. That's all about the menstrual cycle. Okay, let's get real for a second. We've all had those days where we look in the mirror and think, who is this? Maybe you are crying because you dropped a spoon, or you've been sleeping 10 hours and you still feel very exhausted. Usually, we just blame ourselves or say, I am stressed. But a lot of time, it's usually because of your hormones. They are screaming for help. So, how do you know that your hormones are actually in balance? It's pretty simple. The first way to know if your hormones are in balance is if your periods changes. Maybe you had a very regular 28-day cycle period, and now you don't even know when your next period will come. And let's be honest, this is just not about your period or your cycle length. You can also tell that your hormones are in balance if your periods start coming too early or they delay for too long before they come. You can also know that you have hormonal imbalances if your period skips for months before coming again. And for sure, you are not pregnant. Period becomes very heavy or strangely light. Let's talk about this one. If you've always had a very lighter period and from nowhere your period starts being very heavy, it might signal that you have hormonal imbalances. Now the elephant in the room. If you've never experienced cramps or painful periods, usually known as dysmenorrhea, and from nowhere you are experiencing extreme pain during your period, this may actually mean that you have hormonal imbalances. Now on to the mood roller coaster. We all get a little grumpy before our period. That is very normal. But if you feel like your moods are actually hijacking your life, that could be a sign. I'm talking about feeling fine 1 minute and then feeling a dark cloud of anxiety or sadness the next. For no reason at all. If you feel like a stranger to yourself for 2 weeks out of every month, your estrogen and progesterone are probably fighting instead of dancing. Now on to the mystery weight. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Eating well, moving your body, but your jeans suddenly don't fit? Hormonal weight isn't like normal weight. It usually shows up as stubborn bloating or a pouch right around your stomach that just won't budge. This is often your stress hormone, cortisol, or your insulin levels acting up. Your body is basically stuck in storage mode because it thinks it's under attack. So if you feel like you are gaining too much weight abruptly or losing too much weight that you do not understand, it could be because of hormonal imbalances. Now let's talk about fatigue. I stayed up too late, tired, and then there is hormonal tired. This is that heavy, foggy exhaustion where you wake up after 8 hours or more of sleep and you still feel like you've been hit by a truck. If you're dragging yourself throughout the day and then suddenly feel wired at 10 p.m. but cannot sleep, that's your internal clock being totally off balance. Well, you can also know that you have hormonal imbalances if you experience changes in your libido. Let's be honest about libido. It's normal for it to go up and down during the month. But if your spark has completely vanished for months at a time, your body is trying to tell you something. Usually, when your body is too stressed or your hormones are low, it shuts down the fun stuff to save energy for survival. If you feel like that part of you has just gone on a permanent vacation, it's a major hormonal red flag. Now the skin issues. We are told acne is just for teenagers. But hormonal skin issues are different. If you're getting those deep, painful under the skin bumps, specifically along your jawline or chin, that's almost always a hormonal flare-up. It's usually your body's way of showing you on the outside that something is imbalanced on the inside. Mature acne is very stressful. So what exactly causes hormonal imbalances? You see, there are different causes of hormonal imbalances from natural shifts, lifestyle changes, medical reasons, and environmental issues. You can see that in the table I have crafted. So, natural causes include puberty, pregnancy, and menopause. Lifestyle changes on the other side may include high chronic stress, poor diet, and lack of sleep. When it comes to medical reasons, they include thyroid issues, PCOS, or diabetes. And for environmental causes, it includes exposure to endocrine disruptors. And these include plastics and chemicals. So let's look at them independently. Chronic stress. Stress has never been good for anybody. When you are under chronic stress, your body prioritizes cortisol, which is the stress hormone, to keep cortisol high. The body may steal resources from other hormones like progesterone, leading to many imbalances. Now let's look at diet. High sugar and refined carb intake can cause insulin spikes, which eventually confuses the body's ability to manage blood sugar. And this can actually trigger issues like PCOS. For endocrine disruptors, which are basically chemicals found in the everyday products like the plastics that we use, pesticides, or phthalates in fragrances, or rather perfumes. These endocrine disruptors mimic natural hormones, tricking your body into thinking it has more or less of a hormone than it actually does. So apart from the medical reasons, hormonal imbalances can be caused by autoimmune diseases, tumors and growths, and gland dysfunctions. Now let's talk about the two biggest elephants in the room when it comes to hormones. That is PCOS and birth control. These usually come up almost in every conversation about hormonal health, but they are often the most misunderstood. Now, PCOS is super common, but the name is actually kind of confusing. It's not just about cysts on the ovaries. It's actually a metabolic and hormonal imbalance. In PCOS, your body accidentally adds way too much spice, specifically androgens, which are male-leaning hormones like testosterone. This is why girls with PCOS often deal with stubborn acne on their jawline, hair growing in places they don't want, or even hair thinning on their head. And now because those levels are so high, your body gets confused and forgets to ovulate. That's why your periods might be totally random or disappear for months. But remember, only a doctor can diagnose if you have PCOS or not. And the good news is PCOS is highly manageable. Now let's talk about birth control, especially the pill. A lot of women were put on birth control as teenagers, specifically to fix heavy periods or acne. But the truth is, the pill doesn't actually fix your hormones, it just hits the mute button on them. Hormonal birth control works by shutting down your natural hormone production and replacing it with synthetic versions. It stops you from ovulating, which means you aren't actually having a real, it's just a withdrawal bleed. For some girls, this is great, but for others, it can lead to different kind of imbalances because since your natural hormones are suppressed, you might experience a flat mood, a total loss of libido, or even unexplained anxiety. The real imbalance on the pill often happens when you stop taking it because your body has been asleep for years, and when you quit, it sometimes overreacts or struggles to remember how to make its own hormones again. This is why some people get post-pill acne or lose their period for a while. Their body is just trying to find their own switch again. So let's talk about the feedback loop failure. So in a healthy body, hormones work via a negative feedback loop. For instance, when your brain detects you have enough thyroid hormone, it usually sends a signal to stop production. An imbalance here may occur when this stop signal is ignored or the start signal never arrives. So here are some of the major hormonal and their common disruptors all put in a table, including cortisol, insulin, estrogen, and thyroid. So when can you see a doctor? Sometimes you might think you have hormonal imbalance, but you're not sure. So the only way to know whether you have hormonal imbalances is to see a doctor. Some of the things that might make you go see a doctor include your period drastically changing. If you had a lighter period and now it's very heavy, your period was regular, now it's very irregular, you have very heavy, very severe cramps during your period, you need to see a doctor. Number 2, fatigue. If fatigue does not go away, even if you rest well, you need to see a doctor. Mood swings. If your mood swings become very severe and beyond your control, I think it's time you need to see a doctor. Lastly, if you have unexplained weight gain or weight loss, you also need to see a doctor. Now, hormonal imbalances happen even when we think that we have complete control on our bodies. So in case it happens to you, don't panic. Rather, try management tips. First is to see a doctor and adhere to each and every suggestion they'll give you. Number 2, try stress management skills. Well, I know it's easier said than done, but as long as it's good for our bodies, why not try? You can try journaling or talking to somebody that you trust, or even signing in with your therapist or counselor. Number 3, eating a balanced diet. Hormones might be disrupted because you are not eating well. So, if you notice that you have hormonal imbalances, you need to start eating well. A balanced dieted meal. Now, if you can also try moving your body. Now, when I say moving your body, I don't necessarily mean hitting the gym. You can move your body by stretching, taking walks, or dancing. Nothing crazy. Lastly, you need to be consistent. Whatever you try to do, be consistent with it. I hope this video helped you understand what your body is trying to tell you. Subscribe to more educational health videos.